minutes. I'm fine.
Welcome to the Art of Rising. You know, I'm always on the lookout for great guests, and we happen to have one right here. Her bio is fascinating, the website, the things that she's involved in, and everything. She's an avid runner and mindset, a life coach, and I don't know, it just goes on and on. But I'll just allow her to introduce herself and tell us where she's living and what she's doing with herself these days.
Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Candice Graciano. I'm a life and grief coach. I'm also a sound healer and Reiki practitioner, end of life doula. I also work with somatic healing. I'm located in Saddle River, New Jersey. Right now, I do a lot of work virtually or going to places, but starting in June, I'm going to be opening my own center in Ramsey, so I'll be found there. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh my God. And Ramsey, yeah, you didn't tell me that. Hold on.
I know that just kind of happened recently.
Oh, okay. That's great. That's what we love. We love just the world is just unfolding before us. It's a great playground to be in, right?
Oh, and so much with the virtual world, it'll be nice to be able to have a spot to meet people in person. That,
Right.
you know,
Much needed. Much needed. I mean, some of the work that we do here in North Bergen, people are like, what? I didn't
right.
even know you do. Oh my God. Like, yeah. And they come all the time. They're like, they can't
Yeah,
believe it. And I'm like, yeah, we're doing it, man. We're doing it right here.
beautiful.
Right. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about some of the things you're doing now, right? You're doing this somatic healing, which has to do with sound, right, and breath. Is that correct?
So I do somatic healing with clients. It's sound and breath work. We also do gentle movement. And, a lot of it has to do with the trauma cycle, right? So there's this theory that trauma gets stuck, right? When something happens to us and we go to express it to people, what's the first thing they say? Oh, relax, calm down, don't cry. So it just stays inside.
Mm.
So with somatic work, we actually kind of bring up the event and then allow the emotions to flow out, allow everything that you were feeling to flow out. And the theory and the science is that's where the healing happens, when we release that trauma that's stuck in our body. So I do that with sound healing and Reiki, and sometimes we bring in gentle movement if the client needs it, and a lot of breath work in there as well.
That's great because here at the Omziel Healing Sanctuary, we do tons of breath work also.
Yeah,
It's quite powerful. Like
I
we've
mean,
had
breath
some.
is life, right?
That's right. We've had some breathwork sessions where like people just break down and just crying uncontrollably. But then we've also had people like start laughing uncontrollably also.
Right? There's the
So
two extremes.
right, right.
Right. Well,
So what did
sometimes people are in environments where they're not allowed to be happy. They're not allowed to express that, right? You can have both of them. So
mm-hmm,
maybe
mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful place for for everyone to be able to express everything.
Right. That's beautiful. And I see the sound bowls behind you. Let me take a look there. Let me see there. Oh,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Oh my God. Oh wow.
So
Is
this
that
is my office at home. I'm going to be moving everything to the studio soon and still doing it at home through Zoom. I do a lot of Zoom sessions
That's
with clients.
great. Oh my God. I gotta book me a session then for real. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now is that sort of like a xylophone, right?
That is a crystal harp. So it's quartz
Crystal
crystal.
harp. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
It's quartz
Wow.
crystal and it resonates at 432 hertz.
Wow. I'm so glad I met you.
Thank
That's
you.
great. That's great. We do this great work too. Me and my wife, we have this private practice that we have here in North Bergen, New Jersey. We see clients also on one-to-one basis, which is we always recommend that. So no
Absolutely.
distract. We have group stuff too, but the one-on-one is always the focus, on
It's
them.
work.
So yeah. So why don't you tell me a little bit about um some of the instruments that you're using and like the clients that come through, some of the experiences that you've seen with clients,
Sure.
how they've changed, profoundly.
Yeah. The singing bowls that I use are it's so there's different kinds, right? So you can have alchemy bowls, you can have Tibetan singing bowls. This happens to be a chakra set. So each bowl is tuned to the frequency of the seven main chakras. So what I do with my clients is we come to a session, we see what's going on with you, maybe where you need some work, or maybe you don't want to tell me anything, you just want me to do my work, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So I feel into the energy, and I always play all of the bowls through so that the whole chakra system is being cleansed and opened and unblocked. And then I kind of feel into you and the universe, see what it's where it tells me to go, and then I continue to really focus in on those areas. And the crystal harp, I've just recently, that's a new instrument for me, so I've been learning how to integrate that in. It really helps people to, I never like to say clear your mind, because we totally can't clear our mind, but we can quiet it. And it really helps people to quiet their mind.
Wow, incredible.
And silence the inner, like an inner critic sometimes, just silence all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, we call them the roommate.
Yeah. I have a client who calls them the board of directors.
The board of directors. Yep. Right. That's it. So all the same, all the same. You know, I was learning about some of those voices that we hear, and we should be attuned to them to find out which is the one that's working for me, which is the one that's not. Because sometimes we hear things and we go, oh yeah, you're right, I shouldn't do that podcast. Yeah, what if people don't like me? Or you see, it's like, wait a minute, I don't think that one's working for you. We think it's okay, but then there's the other one, yeah, you should do that, then we kind of like, oh, you sure? Like,
you sure?
That's the one.
That's the one to listen to. Well, it's interesting you say that, because a lot of the work that I do with my clients is, who are those voices, right? We weren't born to say negative things to ourselves and to keep ourselves down. Somebody somewhere said something to us. So we always try to really go into that work of, who are the voices, who's helping us, who's harming us, and the ones that aren't helping us, how do we have a conversation to shift it? The voice might never go away, but how can we shift it and take the power back from it? That's a lot of the coaching work when it comes to life coaching that I do with clients.
Right. I noticed that also you're doing life coaching, which is great. When I first heard about life coaching, I was like, come on, man, I don't need no life coach, get out of here, like, wait a minute, but I need some help here. It's like, yeah, that's where you might want to get somebody to help you. So,
right. I mean, and it comes in all forms. Sometimes people just need someone to talk to in a safe, non-judgmental space. And, with it, we do a lot of mindfulness. So there's always a lot of mindfulness work. There's exercises in between, and that's where the integration comes in.
Definitely. I think about some of those things too. And all of this information that we receive, how do you weave it back into your life? Which I could see that's what you do, the healing and the integration, during that holistic journey. So how would that look if someone came to you and then they had a session with you and they go, wow, I got all these downloads, right? Because people, right? They call it this, put any word with it, but it's just information that they receive and they want to use it. How would you help them?
So we always have, we start with a deep dive session, and then we go really into what your values are, and are you living in your values, and are you living in your truths? And a lot of the work does happen in between sessions after the conversation. So when a client comes back and they say, this happened and this happened and this happened, then we decide what do they need to take the things that are positive and continue them, right? Do we need to incorporate meditation? Do we need to incorporate fitness, mindful eating? What is it that is going to keep you on this higher vibration?
How about
we layer it on slowly, right? We don't want to, we read these self-help books and we try to do 18 things at one time, and it doesn't always work. It's a slow process of layering it on.
Right. So yeah, that's fascinating. And we did speak about some of those internal things that come up, and like, how do we work with it? Because that happens to me too, but it always comes in the quietness. It's always in the silence, because we think like, oh, I'm waiting for God to talk to me. It's like, yeah, maybe if you be quiet, right. Maybe, right. I had some people say, they go, oh, but I pray to God. And I go, yeah, but are you listening to God? Right. And then they go, oh, yeah. I'm like, that's like calling somebody, telling them, hey, I need a pizza. And then you go, and then he says, what kind of pizza? Hold on, and you hung up the phone. Like, you might want to wait a minute. Yeah, exactly.
And it's also when you hear it, being able to realize that you're hearing it, that you've gotten the message, and what are you doing with it? Just, we might get the message, but then we have to do the work.
Right. I know. We think it's just like, yeah, it's the lottery. Just give it to me already. It's like, yeah, I gave it to you, but it comes like this, twisted, so you gotta
Healing
unfold
can
it.
change. I hate to, some people don't want to hear it, but it's work. It's a lot of
Mm.
work. It
It's
doesn't
a
have
lot
to
of
be
work.
bad work all the time either. Like, it doesn't have to be like this heavy thing. It can be
Right.
really fun, and we can laugh a lot, and we can have really good time as well.
Hmm. Yep, that happens to me too. It's just a lot of work, and some guys be like, but I'm trying hard, and I tell them, yeah, well, you're probably not trying hard enough, and they're like, what? What do you mean? I'm like,
Right.
let me hear what you're doing. Let me hear. Oh, you got to do more.
Yeah.
What? You have to do more than that. More. What else? Have you tried this? It's more, and they're like, I can't believe it. Like, believe it, bro, because that's just the way God or the universe or whatever name you want to put on it. We spoke about that, like how the present comes. The present, right? It's strange because this is the present, right? But it's aptly named, right? The present comes now, and then it's our job to unwrap it. And then once we see the present, we have to do something with it, not throw it away and wait for the next present. It's like, is that one right there? They gave it to you. Work with that one.
Absolutely.
So we're doing a couple of things here at the Omziel Healing Sanctuary, and I did want to also mention that we're having a men's retreat that's coming up, and this is where some of the deep work comes in, the one that we spoke about, and it could look quite rough sometimes too, because nobody wants to go to that dark place, that hard stuff, but that's what we're doing. We're in the business of that, and people want to do it, but like a life coach, they sometimes need a little bit of help, because I always think that, you know most people, not everybody, but most people just don't know what they want. Like, they kind of know, but they need a little bit of help. That's where these life coaches come in, and people to guide them just a little bit.
I would say we're
So,
not taught these things. We're just kind of thrown out into the world when it comes to
mm,
our emotions and things that we go to and how to
mm,
process
mm,
things that
mm,
happen to us.
mm.
Our emotional EQ isn't, we're not taught that. Most people, some people are, but a lot of people
Right.
aren't. You're just thrown out into the world and you don't know what to do with all of
Yeah.
these things.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So the men's retreat that we're having is coming up in May. It's May 23rd, 24th, 25th. It's just for the weekend. And we're going to New Paltz, New York, which is up by Woodstock. So I didn't know what New Paltz was, but it's that way. It's in the state of New York, upstate. We're
Upstate.
staying at a wonderful place called the Stone Mountain Farm. They have like over 250 acres of land, and we're going to be camping there as men. Tickets are going very quickly. If you stay to the end of this podcast, we'll help you out, get you in there. So reach out to me. I left the website right there.
Well, what kind of
And
things are you doing with them there?
well, we do some integration first. We open the circle and all that. And then in the rising, we do some physical expansion. We do some breath work. We try to get in an ice plunge, because that's one of our staples here. One of the main staple is breath work with an ice plunge. So we do that one, but they have lakes over there too. So, that's mountain air. So over there, you don't need no ice over there. You see? We'll be up early, and we'll be, dipping into that, right? And I coach men through those. I coach people through, the cold exposure. It's a powerful stimulant to the system, and it's like a reboot. Then we go hiking. There's deep work, there's journaling, and lots of conversation. There's workshops. Then there's plenty of time to sit around and relax. We burn the wood. We make our own food, and those are different things that we're doing. Some of the things, so
Amazing.
it's exciting. It's exciting. Men need it. Like, get away, unplug, man, unplug from the matrix.
Plug. It's so important.
So that's some of the things that we're doing. We're super excited, man. If anybody's interested, jump in, right?
Absolutely.
But I do want to get back to you, and you did speak also about some of the other things about the transformational work that you do in the area of the end of life doula.
Yes.
So doula was a word that I had learned a couple of years ago, because a good brother of mine, his wife is a doula that helps women give birth.
Yes.
But now I'm seeing that you are an end of life doula.
So
So could you tell me about that?
I help clients and their families with the transition, right? So whether that's just So this work started when my father passed 2 years ago in August, and when I was at the nursing homes, when I was at the assisted livings, when I was in the
Mhm.
hospital, there were so many people who were by themselves, and it just broke my heart because my father had such a good support system. We were with him till the end. We stayed with him for 5 days through hospice, through his transition as a family. And one night the lights went out. The nursing home lost power, and there was a woman just screaming because she was by herself. And I went in there and I sat with her. And through that experience, it really called me to be able to hold space and be there for people that are transitioning, whether it's the person who is transitioning, making sure that their needs are met, that their wills are done, that their legacy projects are done, that they're comfortable if they can't speak, that the room is set up in a way that they want. A lot of people now are writing, we can write end of life plans with people if they know they're going to be transitioning at a certain time, and we make sure that it is done in a respectful way and the way that they would want to transition.
Mm,
So
mm,
that's a lot of the work that I do. And then I hold
mm,
space for families too. The families need so much support sometimes. And sometimes it's just sitting with them and making tea and having a conversation.
mm,
Sometimes it's just giving them a reprieve to go home and shower while you sit with their loved one as they're
mm.
transitioning.
So my question, one of the many questions now, because this is bringing up a lot here. So was it because of your father transitioning that's helped you to step into this service?
The end of life doula work, yes. I
Okay.
actually started getting certified as my father was, towards the end of his life, as we knew he was starting to transition. I
Right.
started taking the course.
So was there a moment in your life that shifted your relationship with death?
Yes. So, well, there were a few. I mean, I've been a grief coach since 2019. I became a grief coach because I lost one of my very, very best friends, and it was extremely tragic, the whole situation. And that's how I got into sound healing. I had a sound bath and it was healing for me. And then I started working with someone for my own grief. And then I thought, wow, people, we need somebody when we're in this space. I
Mm,
couldn't imagine anyone being alone. I had a really good support system. So that kind of started my journey of being in the grief space is when I became a grief coach in 2019. And then this experience with my father is what led me into the end of life doula work.
powerful, powerful. So then my next question is, what can death teach us about life?
Well, a lot of it teaches us a lot about regret and love. You hear a lot about all the things people wish they did. And then you hear a lot about all the things that people did that they loved, right? At the end, we all have a story, and most people tell it, whether it's through their family at the end or whether they're able to tell it. And I always say, what do you want that story to be?
Mm,
And it's kind
yeah.
of how they connect.
Right, right. There's a famous quote by someone that said, "At the end, we all become stories."
Yes, yes,
That's
that just gave me the chills. Yes, at the end, we're all stories. So
mhm.
that's why sometimes people want to do life and legacy projects also.
That's amazing. My father passed. It was last year also, and it was tough. He was my hero. I happen to have had someone like that. Not many people do, right? Because
Right.
I do men's work, so you can imagine a lot of the guys they don't even know their father,
Your
you
father.
know, let
Mm,
alone know them and and hate them, and many do,
right.
but for me, it was kind of that love hate, and he taught me lots of bad, negative things. I picked that up, and as much as I hated it about him, I ended up doing it because that's how humans are. We're just primates. Monkey see, monkey do. That's it.
Like you say, sometimes we don't know any better and we don't get a handbook. We learn by doing and making
Right.
mistakes and
That's
healing
yeah.
over and over and over again.
That's why we should do. Just don't wait. Just do it. Yeah, experience. You get it wrong. Oh, how many? I wish I had a nickel for every time somebody told me I wasn't ready to do something. I was too young. I was too old. I didn't have the connections of the right complexion. you know.
Right.
I said, I am who I am. That's it. And I just keep going. It's who are they? Like they're not the end all, say all. So
That brings us back to who is that voice, because that could have held you back from so many things had you
mm,
allowed it. And unfortunately, it does hold some people back.
hmm. Right. Yes. For instance, when I had found out, I had gotten word that my old man had fell down on his face, so I bought the ticket right away. I ran over there. It was in San Francisco and spent some time with him. And then but I have a brother too, an older brother. And I was like, you come down. Oh yeah, hold on. Let me see. And then when everything happened, he was like, I should have went, but I just stood quiet. Like I'm not. I wasn't. That's not for me. I went right away, because I didn't know what was gonna happen, and my wife was the one who was like, "Yeah, you got to go."
Gotta
So
go.
I went, and then, he taught me a lot of great things too. I want to be sure to mention that also. He eventually started getting into this mindfulness, and then he was a practicing Buddhist. So he ended up, going to the temple quite often and being very active there. And I learned from that too, you see. So I said, wait a minute, I learned all these other things and I did it. I'm gonna try that too. I started reading the books that he would read and learn and practice some of those things. And then I started getting into meditation, and just mindfulness. And then I would go on silent retreats,
Wow.
then and they taught me how to be mindful. Like you just don't close the door, or you just don't, get in the chair, like, or you just don't eat your food. Like everything was mindfulness. I went to a Zen Buddhist, a Zen. So they're like militant, like, they're like, do it like that, like, and oh my god, I loved it, I loved it. So yes, tell me a little bit more about that mindfulness that you help clients with, and what is it that they get out of that?
So it all really depends on the client, right? What they're coming to me for. If they're coming to me for life coaching, career, if they're coming to me for grief, we do a lot of journal work, and we do a lot of like mantra affirmation and repetition, because really that's what it's about. It takes 21 to 28 days to rewire like the neurotransmitters in our brain, right? So we have to be, when we talk about militant, like I don't, depending on the client, it's the words that you use, right? Sometimes we can say militant, sometimes we have to be a little softer. You learn that as you talk.
It's like, oh, discipline. Oh,
Right.
oh, I like that.
Right. So it's a lot of repetition. It's a lot of, did you do it when we come back to sessions, or did you check in? Because I have like an app that I use with my clients where we can check in on their homework in between sessions. And if you didn't do it, if you didn't stay on whatever your path was, it's not like you're going to be in trouble. There's learning in that. Why didn't we do it? What's the resistance? Because if there's resistance, we dig deeper. It's like you said with the onion. So we want to create all these new habits, right? Or ways of thinking, but they're not going to happen overnight. They're not going to happen in one day. So we do a lot of repetition and a lot of questioning, just continually questioning yourself and those voices. Why did I do that? Where did I feel that in my body? What's showing up here?
Right. We usually tell people that it's in the silence, so you have to be silent first, right? So that's where meditation comes in. And that's where listening to God comes in too, right? Because people say, oh, I pray, but I don't meditate. I'm like, but that's like you're talking to God, but you want to hear the answer too. And the answer, you have to be quiet, because our minds are filled with all of this internal chatter. And it's the Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. He's the one who in his book speaks about the roommate. That's where we get the roommate from. Like he says, like you would live with somebody, and if they were behind on their rent and they talked all the time, you would get rid of that guy, But yet, right? But yet we don't do nothing about that one, where we should.
The sound healing comes in. Like I always integrate it with all my clients. It's in all of their packages. It's in all of their programs, because sometimes they have a hard time with the meditation. So we want to do it slowly. And through the sound baths, we can get them to reconnect to their breath, to slow down. And then beautiful things happen. They see colors, they see images, they see other places in the world. Realize how powerful that comes back to yourself and that breath is.
We have those too. Like people afterwards, they go, okay, how was it? They were like, I was back in the 5th grade with
Yeah.
Miss McGillicuddy.
Right. Right.
Really?
Okay, let's
Like,
dig
oh, that
into
thing that
that.
she told me. And I'm like, "Well, maybe that's the thing that's holding you back, or you should pursue, or, depending."
Exactly. That's so true. That's exactly what a lot of the work is.
And then there's the colors, like, oh, they see the disco ball,
Yeah.
or they see the purple. I saw the
Slowly go back
purple.
to the chakra and be like, okay, there's something going on in your crown chakra. There's
Yeah,
something going on in your
the
throat. What are you?
blue. I saw the blue. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. It's beautiful. Oh my God. It's just the way we're made. Like, we should be paying attention. I tell people we're sitting in a Ferrari, a high performance vehicle. We should put high octane fuel, right?
Yeah.
Check the tires, you take it out for a run, and stuff like that. Test the vehicle and learn about it. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Take it
because
out for a ride.
if we're not, we're just like, get in the boat with no sail, no rudder, and I say, oh, I'm going to Jamaica, to the beaches of Jamaica. Like, how?
Wow.
How are you gonna get there? So that's where the life coach comes in and those type of things. And but I love to know more about that. Like, how are you helping clients when they come to you? What would something look like if somebody said, hey, I want you to be my life coach? Like,
So like, let me see. I have so many. I have a lot of grief clients right now. I have a few life coaching clients, and it's it's kind of, so it starts with mundane things, or what we would perceive as mundane. Like, I don't like my job and I don't know where to go next. And then as you start digging into it, it's like, well, I'm doing this job because my mom wanted me to be so and so, and because when I was a kid, my father said this to me, and then, oh, that's why I did that in my life, and that's why I did that, and that's why I married that guy, and that's why I made that decision, and that's why I'm unhappy. Right? So it's not my job. It's all these other things that I need to heal from.
And then you would sort of like help them, guide them on some sort of program or some sort of like steps or practices.
When I first started, I was like, we're going to do these specific steps, right? We're going to do value mining, and then we're going to do this, and then you learn that's not what it is. Because everybody is so different, and everyone's experiences are wild, and they're beautiful, and they're sad, and there's all these different things involved. So over the years, I've learned all these different tools, right? So if a client comes to me and they're like, I hate my job and I hate this, and they're really in their head, first we're going to bring them back down. We're going to start that session with a meditation. And then we're going to say, okay, what's coming up in your body? Where are you feeling that? What's going on? And then we go into conversation. And then at the end, okay, this week, work on this and this and this. Right? And come back to it. Right? And then the next week, they'll come back and be like, in the silence, I remembered that my mom did this to me, and that's how I ended up here. And now I'm mad at her because of all these things. Okay, so now let's heal that wound.
Right. That's beautiful. Yeah, we should be paying attention to some of these things, and then some of your philosophies, when you are working with clients, with sound, because there's always these misconceptions, right? Because they're like, oh, I don't want to do that because I didn't read about crystal bowls in the Bible, or what?
So many clients, when they come to me, they're like, I don't believe in that, and I don't want to do it. And then by the end, they're hooked, and they're just booking sound healing sessions.
Yeah.
Reiki sessions, and they don't even want to talk anymore. And I'm like, no, wait, we still need to talk.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that,
Yes, like, just give me the sound bowls. Just I
I don't even want to talk to you anymore. Shut up, play.
Yep, that's beautiful. There are these misconceptions. We get those all the time too. And but some people come in, and then when they experience it, they're like, wow, this is beautiful. I was missing this. I can't believe it, And then it gets them more in touch with their belief system. Like, whatever they're rooted in, they're like, oh man, you helped me so much. Now I'm more deeply rooted into the practice, whatever that belief system is,
And then when it comes to the grief work, a lot of clients, I always say the grief isn't going to go away. You might grieve the person, the place, the thing, the relationship forever, but how can you learn to walk beside it, right? How can you come out on the other side in a way that helps? And a lot of people feel guilty when they start living their life and being happy again. They feel like they should be stuck in in this grief for X
Mm.
amount of years, or that they should not be grieving so long, and it has no timeline. So we do a lot of work is around what grief looks like and doesn't look like, and how there are no rules around that, and incorporating different traditions and different things that help people heal and are able to walk beside it.
Yeah, that's one of those subjects that it's one of those subjects. It's hard. People don't want to talk about it. They're like, they just don't want to even talk about it. Like, I'm like, why wouldn't you want to talk about it, bro? Like, let's
I
just
would say we
talk.
don't talk enough about death and grief.
Right? Yeah, yeah. I usually tell people those are one of those things that they don't teach us about. They don't teach us about that. They don't even teach us about love.
No.
Like how do people, like, again, working with people and men, they're like, we don't know. What did they teach us when we were a kid? They usually tell little girls, oh, you have a nice tea set here, play with this doll, right? But boys, they go, oh, here's the gun and here's a fast car, right? You see? So like we're already way off, and
Yeah.
then they usually tell boys like, oh, how many girlfriends you got? But they would never say that to a little girl.
Right.
Never. They would never say that.
No.
See, so already you're putting the boys like, oh, go have a lot of women, you see,
Yeah, the
and
seed
it's
is
like,
already
this is no
planted
love.
on how.
Exactly. And then women are like, why is he like that? Yeah, that's the way we were taught, man.
It's a lot of reprogramming as we get older for both sides.
Yeah. It's that unlearning, I call it. You have to unlearn
You
all
do.
of things. Why don't you tell me about some of the powerful breakthroughs that you've seen with clients? Perhaps a story. No names mentioned.
No names. It's interesting. Like crazy things happen, and sometimes people don't always believe it. But I think if you're deeply in this space, you do believe in it. And I had a client once who, she had some ties to some criminal organizations, and she was in here one day with a lot of heavy energy. And we were doing Reiki and sound healing, and my whole office filled up with flies. Like my entire office, like they were like slamming themselves into walls, into the windows. And when she left, he felt great.
Flies.
Flies in my office, and my husband and I had to catch them each individually and toss them out a window.
Incredible.
She felt great afterwards.
Right, I'm sure she did. She let all that out. Oh my goodness.
So like in the energy space, I've had things like that happen. In the coaching space, I've had clients open their own businesses. I had a client who came to me who was working for a law firm and really was just miserable and unhappy in that space. And she didn't really understand why. And through like 6 months of work, she ended up leaving and opening her own law firm. And she just didn't think that she would do it. She was a mom, she had kids, she had a husband, she had all these responsibilities. And then she sent me an email on how she had never been happier that she was able to take these steps to starting her own, space. I've had grief clients who have been able to, just change their perspective on what grief. I had a client come to me a couple of weeks ago and say, my mom is in hospice and she has dementia and I'm just grieving her. And I was like, but she's still alive. Right? Why are we grieving someone who's still alive?
Wow.
Change our perspective. What's your relationship with her now?
Right.
How can you enjoy and spend time and be in this space with her now? Let's work on things, right? So the relationship looks different, but she's there. Right. And it just changed how she can spend time with her mother for these next however many weeks that they have. And now she's posting pictures of them on Instagram and she's talking about how happy they are and the new things that they're doing together.
Wow. Yep, I know that relates so much to me too. With my dad, we were very close. We were close for, especially when I got older and stuff like that. He's very open like that. And then mom, she's a tough one too. She's always wielding that guilt, like hit me in the head with it. Like, it's one of those old school moms, but like I mentioned that my old man passed on, and I often talk about it. It was difficult, but I still talk about it, and if we did get into it, I would just begin crying. Like it's just part of it, and it's fine. It's okay. Like, I'm sorry that, those things happened in that way, but it's just the way it is. Whoever built this thing, like whatever this is, right? Did it like that. Like we come in and then we go, but those preconceived notions about birth and death. Like,
And
they
just
just,
how sometimes good people just do bad things.
yeah, yeah,
Fortunately,
yeah.
you can do something terrible and you can still be a good person. You just
I'm so glad that you said that, because and then I did want to get into that too. Like, you're an avid runner too, which is
yeah,
amazing. But this is the way we're going to slip in, right? It's like this: when I'm running, that's often the time when it comes for me. Like, I'm there, it's cold, it's freezing, my hands are hurting.
yeah,
I've got all these miles to be put in. I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I should be home. Maybe this starts with me, and then it starts with this craziness. Like, oh, remember that time that you did that, and oh, you hurt that person. Oh my God, the other day I had to be like, hey, wait a minute.
right.
And I said, now is when you come for me? Now, when I'm right, when I'm tired and I'm cold. And I said, I see you. I see you. You're obvious, man. That's it. Just keep going.
Just
So
keep
I
going.
want
And
you.
then who's that voice, right? That's the work for you to do later on, right? Like, who is that? And how do we have a
Mhm.
conversation to take power back from it? And then
Yes.
the more we take the power back, the less we will hear it.
Why don't you tell me about your conversations? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Oh,
off.
no, no, no. I don't. I'm
No, no, I'm
terrible. I
curious.
cut everybody off. Just I have so much to say. I get so excited. So I
Me
apologize.
too. That's what it is. I'm excited. I would like to know, like, how do you work with that? What are the conversations look like? Yeah.
For me, I fought a lot with my own self-esteem and with
Mhm.
showing up, especially in the online space. I always wanted to be, I always knew I wanted to be in the healing space, but I didn't really know how I was going to get there. And it's just recently in the last few months that I've actually been able, maybe the last year, that I've actually been able to start like agreeing to podcasts. And I've been on several now, or going on TikTok, doing lives and doing my sound baths online, and being able to speak more about my true beliefs, because a lot of it was like, who cares, or you're crazy, nobody's going to listen to you, who are you, what background do you have, you don't have any degrees, you don't have this, you're not a psychiatrist, how can you help people heal. um, so those were a lot of the conversations that I had to fight, and I still have to fight them sometimes. There's some days where I wake up and I have complete imposter syndrome, but then then I go on my website and I'll read reviews. Honestly, that's what I do. And I'm like, oh, I am doing good work. There are people, and I have
Beautiful.
clients and I'm booked, and I have to remember that, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned in 2019 that I had lost one of my very best friends. He actually murdered his wife, and then he murdered himself.
Mm.
And it was the most tragic and horrible thing I ever had to go through. And this was a person that I was friends with since I was 15. He lived with my husband and I. He was basically like my brother.
Mm.
When it happened, he didn't live with us, but he had lived with us for many years. And it took me up until maybe this year to truly start telling that grief story, because I thought, what are people going to think when they realize, when I'm still grieving someone who did something so terrible?
Mhm,
The person
mhm.
did a horrible thing, but I still love him. The
Right.
story, I know if I tell it, it's going to help people,
Mhm.
right? I know if I tell it that
Yep. Yep.
people read all the details of it, that
Yep.
there
Mhm.
are people out there that are going to relate. And that's exactly what
Mhm.
happened. So I put the blog out and I put it on social media, and I was so scared. I wrote
Mhm.
it in December and I didn't put it out until I think March.
Mm.
Because I was just terrified, and I was terrified of like what my friends were going to think, and I didn't want to make any money off of it, and it was just all these just
Mhm. Mhm.
intrusive thoughts. And then I just did it, and it's been so healing.
Mm. Wow. So what are some of the things that people are saying when you put this
So
out?
many people message me about how they loved someone who did something
Mm.
terrible, or what they conceive as terrible, and all the guilt that they had, or arguments they had with their family before someone passed away, or not wanting to share that they're in love with someone who's incarcerated. All these different things came through that story.
Mm.
And just that people didn't feel so alone. A lot of people don't talk about this enough, and the things that happened to them and how
Mm.
deeply they're grieving. I mean, I really go into it. all the things, that happened and how much I love this person and how I grieve them every single day to this day from 2019. Right. And I have to use my own practices sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. They're like, hey, you're out here trying to help people?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Maybe
Like,
you
I'm
need a little help,
wounded.
lady. Yeah.
But that's also brought me to sound healing. I started working with a life coach who actually really helped me through grief because she was a meditation instructor, and we did a ton of breath work and meditation. And then she linked me up with a sound bath practitioner who gave me this beautiful sound bath. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to bring this with my clients.
Right.
I need to bring this to my clients.
Right. Right. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, I've already become so emotional, by the story that you shared with me. And this life it's just, it's crazy. That's why I tell people, pay attention, pay attention. We have all these distractions, but we
Right.
should see like the bigger thing of what's going on. Why are you here? Why? What are you doing? Like just recently, a friend had put on Facebook also, that her husband had passed on. He had diabetes, and it was a quick thing, and they're shocked, like they're like, wow, thrown off by the whole event. And then I remember they were here. She brought her husband here and her son, and they did the breath work and the ice and all that, and like they loved it and everything. And when I got the news, it was like, wow, that man, it hit me like. And then I started thinking about my own mortality, and that and we should often too, because like they say, it's the best teacher, right? And then I started thinking about like, hey, what am I doing, like, and I know what I'm doing. I'm making a difference here. I'm changing people's lives, man. I'm part of the healing process. You see, that's what I want. I don't want to just go somewhere and work and then get the money and then go pay the bills and then, oh, he worked. He was a nice, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm great. I am great. And I'm part of greatness. You see, so everything I do, I go full in, man, and I see some people halfway. I'm like, bro, I really want to say, please, could you move out of the way? Yeah, because I'm going this way. Greatness is this way, bro. And you want to, because it's just nice. You want to play around, like, and that's the legacy. I have kids watching me too. I have a 7 and a 9 and a 31-year-old too, and my wife. And come on, man,
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you for sharing those
You're
things.
welcome. I think it teaches us to be kind to everyone we meet, because we never know. You never know.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's true. Like, some things had changed in my life. I went from a guy who didn't want anybody in my house to I opened my home like to everybody. Like,
Everybody comes
but
in.
yeah, and then this thing has been coming up for me where I was on someone else's podcast. The name of the podcast is called Onion Soup, by the way, right? And that struck me because my wife often says that we're like onions. There's many layers to us, right? You just keep peeling back, like there's more to it. There's no quick fix, 6-minute abs, and then there's none of that.
No.
There's none of that. There's none of that. That's that. Easy come, easy go, right?
Right.
So the brother had told me, hey, do you have this hard life that you've been through and stuff. Do you believe that people who are into these different healing modalities have to go through some hard stuff, in order to be that? And I was like, wow, man, yeah, maybe. What do you think about that?
I think hard is such a relative term for everybody, right? And that's kind of like when we talk about trauma, right? Like someone could get in a car accident, or someone could get shot, or someone could yell at them, or a dog could bark at them, and the trauma response can be the same. So I think hard is kind of what is in your monkey sphere. So what you perceive hard or not hard might have been hard for somebody else. Like, all about perspective.
That's true. It's true. I had one teacher, guru. He said, he went from his parents gave him up for adoption. So he was jumping from these places to places, and there was abuse that went on and some hard stuff. And he had come to this point, and he was saying it was perfect. It was perfect. That blew me away. I was like, what? Whoa.
And then some people perceive to have amazing lives, and they're just sad.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're not. Maybe they're happy. I think you can have what's quote unquote we consider a good and happy life and still heal people. I think we're all connected to the
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
We
It's
all
true.
have divine
Mhm.
light.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yes. Yes. It's that perspective too, the mindset, because you see some guys like they got it all, the money, they're like the company, and then they go to the roof and jump off. Like what? What? That's crazy. You have it all, the power, the money.
life
That's
is hard. I think just being in this
hmm
world,
Yep.
everyone kind of has a
Thank you.
hard
hmm
life. Life is
hmm
hard. It can be beautiful and it can be
Yeah.
fun and amazing, but it's
Yeah.
hard, man.
Yeah. I think that's just the way we were built. Like they call that the divine spark. Humans have that. Like we could be anything. That's oftentimes that's why we don't know what we want. Because if you want to be a bird, we could be a bird, and if you want to be a swim like we could swim too. We could do
Yeah.
whatever. We could live here. I could live over there. It doesn't. Yeah.
It reminds me of Reiki, right? Because Reiki's energy healing and anyone can do it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
anyone, if they really want to connect and they're on that frequency,
Yeah.
anybody can really do it. I mean, we're trained and we're attuned, right? So when you get your Reiki master, you get your 1, 2, 3 make Reiki, and your teacher attunes you. Sure, that's a huge part of it, and you should be attuned and you should know the symbols. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not like, I mean, anyone can do it. We
Right.
all have it. We can all lay hands and we can all heal. That's why touch is so important. Our
Mm-hmm.
hugs are so important. Someone hugs you and you feel amazing. That's energy.
Yes, yes. When I see people too, right away they go to shake a hand. I shake a hand quick, and then I hug them.
Yeah,
Almost, always, always,
right.
always. And then they laughed. Oh, they like, oh my god! We do short-term rentals here at Omziel Healing Sanctuary too. So in the interim, when we're not doing some workshops, we rent the space and we're listed on Airbnb. And people come through, and I meet them, and hey, how are you? And I hug them. They're like, oh my god, like thank you. Yeah. Why
Right?
not? We're still in service. It's still
Energy
the same.
healing.
They were still doing the work right there. That's
Yeah,
right. That's how the universe has given us that thing, and we do it. We do it. It's beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah. So we have a private practice. Me and my wife here in North Bergen, New Jersey, and we do many things. And one of them is the ice plunge. And you mentioned about that. I've had people tell me too before, why don't you go get this guy's certificate, or why don't you go get that? And I'm like, why?
For ice cream?
See? Yeah,
That's interesting.
exactly. Right. So yeah, there's some guys who have made this practice, this healing modality very famous. And I
Yeah.
usually don't mention them because they don't mention me on their podcast, right?
I get it. I get it. You put the energy in that you want back.
That's it. That's all. I don't hate them. I ain't mad at them. I'm not competing with them. I'm just saying that there's lots of things you can learn out there.
Yeah.
You gotta want it, and you gotta want to do it and learn it, and yeah. Oftentimes you don't need that special guys thing. You're special.
Exactly. Exactly. I
You
always
go through
say
the motions.
everything you need is inside of you. Everything we need is inside of us. We just
Mm-hmm,
don't always
mm-hmm,
know where to find it or
mm-hmm,
how to
mm-hmm.
access it. And
That's
that's
right.
where like coaching, healing, cold plunges,
Mm-hmm.
sauna, all of that stuff,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
breath work, meditation, that's how
Mm-hmm.
we access it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is in all of us.
Yep. The sweat lodges too.
I'm a big sauna girl. I love the sauna.
Oh, yeah, the sauna. I've been in some sweat lodges is just like that. It's the opposite of the ice.
Yeah.
You have to be mindful, and you have to, meditate. You have to go center yourself. All beings have that thing. That's why birds fly south. We have our inner compass, and in those tough situations like the ice, or like extreme hot and those type of things,
Yeah.
and then the running too,
Yeah.
so yeah, I know we got a little bit off of that run, but tell me some things about your running too, man. How's that going for you? What is it that you do?
So I love long distance running. So I love to do ultra marathons, which is anything over 26 miles. I'm actually training for a marathon right now, but I'm working my way back up to doing ultras. I've tried to do a few hundreds, but I was injured for a little while and I was trying to run through injury. So that didn't work out very well. My longest run was 50. My longest races have been 50 miles. I've done a few 50 milers. I just love being out in nature, and it's an adventure, and you meet friends for the, trail friends for the day. And my husband and I do it together. So I was injured for a few years, but I'm finally back to running, and it's really at the core of who I am. I'm a runner. I love everything about it. I can talk about it
Yeah.
forever. So it's like running and healing. I'm a certified run coach. So I have some clients that come to me for running, and then they end up doing sound baths. I have a company, I work with some running coaches out in Arizona who hire me to do mindfulness work before races and sound baths for their runners. So I'm so excited to be back.
Yeah.
To running.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. My old man too. He was avid runner too. He was
Yeah.
running for many years, and then I remember the first time that he took me on a long run. He left when I was 9, so we were still in contact with each other along the way, and sometimes less, and then sometimes a little bit more. But when he came to me and he said, "Hey, I'm running. Come on, you want to go for a run?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So we ran like many, many, many miles, like straight without stopping. And I tell you, when we stopped, the high that I received is memorable. Never forgot it. The run is high. It was like, whoa, this is incredible.
And that's
But
such a beautiful memory to have too.
yep. And then he helped, later on to push me toward those things. I see what he was doing. And then once I got clear from all of my other junk, like I was chemically dependent, and then the alcohol and those other, and my relationships and and once I got clear from that, like then I started pushing my body. And then I joined the Spartan franchise. That's
Oh,
one
okay.
of them. Yes. So I started doing those, and then when I did my first one, I was screaming like out loud. I was like, I was going to the gym. I thought I was good. No,
Yeah.
I then I learned quick that I have to train. I have
Yeah.
to train my body. I didn't know that. I didn't know, but I learned quick.
I get it. I mean, running is kind of the same. You just have to
Yeah.
train really, really hard for it. And that's when a lot of my downloads come too. Like we were talking earlier about having downloads from the universe. And it's in that silence. I don't fault anyone who runs with music. I think music is great and audiobooks are great, but I've started running without anything because that's where my silence comes from. Because I do the sound bowls for so many other people and meditations for everyone else. Sometimes it's hard to get it as a healer to get that healing back. Right? You're just giving it to everybody. So
Yeah.
for me, my running is my meditation, and I do a
Mhm.
lot of it in silence, and that's where a lot of my downloads come.
Wow, wow. Because for me, running, it's all mental. It's a
Yeah.
mental. That's what I learned, that's one of the reasons why I do it. Like I come to the point where I'm pushing my body. I'm trying my very best, like to every day be out there and run. Just push my body. Why not? Why? Like I have to have some race, which I stopped last year doing the Spartan races. I have like, I don't know, 15 or 18 of those medals. Like I've done
Oh
some
my
really
God,
long
I love
ones.
races. I think I like that. I like traveling, and I like the community aspect of it. And I just
Yeah,
love, like, it gives me a reason. I want whatever it is at the end for running all these miles. So I am a race girl. I love races. I'll sign up
yeah,
for any race all the time, as many as
yeah,
possible.
yeah, yeah. Me too. Me too. I love it. I fell in love with it. And then I got the kids to start doing it too. So keep them healthy and smart in that. But it's mental, right? Because at some point, it's your mind, right? Your body will keep going. It'll keep going, but only if your mind says.
Sometimes it gets boring. I'll admit that. Like I'll be out there like, oh, but then I find something and I start looking around and I'm like, oh my God, I'm in nature and it's beautiful and these trees, and you start just getting into that zone again. So it's definitely, you have
Mhm.
to bring yourself back to why you're doing it sometimes. And I feel like that's the mindfulness
Right.
practice of it.
Yes, yes. And like I said, for me, it's mental. So it strengthens my mind. It keeps me stronger. That way, when life comes and throws me these curveballs and all that, I'm like, ah, man, I
I
get
ran
out
6
of here
miles
with
this morning.
that. Yeah,
You
exactly. But that's the best you got? Oh, come back later, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like that. It's that mental, you know, gym, and then again with the breath in the ice. That's really what's happening here. It's a mental thing because you'll be fine. People, I coach them through it. You'll make it. In fact, you come out better because you'll be like, wow, I did 2 minutes in that freezing ice that I don't like, cold at nothing. And it was freezing. And, the endorphin rush that you receive, that
Right.
dopamine push, like it's like, whoa, 2 minutes in the ice. Yeah. Because I go all year round. Like even in the wintertime, I leave the huge tub outside and with water and I let it freeze. And
Let it-
then there I am, like on Instagram, with the sledge making the ice. Yeah. But
So do you prefer it after your runs? You do it like after your morning run, or is it random throughout the day whenever you feel like you need it for yourself?
it could be random. I like to get it in early, So, usually like when I come back from the run, because I've learned also that, when you're lifting weights and stuff like that, it's or running and those endurance type thing, the ice is always better afterwards. It's good for
Right.
pain management and
Yeah,
all
the
of those things, and it strengthens you in that way. Because I've learned, according to the research, that if you do those cold plunges beforehand, you're not as strong afterwards.
Okay. I
That's why
like
you see the athletes at the end of the game. Where are they?
in
They're
the
in the ice. That's right. Yeah, yeah. So it's a powerful tool, the ice. So we love it. That's what we do here. But why don't you tell me? I can see here on the screen. That's where people can find you, right? CandiceGraciano.com,
Yeah, and
right?
same thing on Instagram and TikTok. It's Candice Graciano Coaching.
Okay, that's beautiful. But I also know that you're part of something else too, which is the
So
mindful3.com.
Mindful 3 is actually how I started getting into life coaching. I was originally the admin and the program manager for Mindful. It's been around for 10 years. And when you sign up with Mindful 3, you get a life coach, a personal trainer, and a nutritionist. So it's a full 360
Mm,
transformation program. And we really believe that all three, how beautifully all three work together. So I still do all the behind the scenes work on Mindful.
mhm,
I'm also the program manager, but I also do the life coaching, the grief coaching, the sound healing. And it's a really beautiful, beautiful program. We have some great strength coaches. We have an amazing nutritionist, and
mm.
we have myself, and we have another life coach and grief coach also.
Oh my goodness. That's beautiful. That people could find you there also.
Find me
Yeah.
at 3.com also.
That's
Yes.
great. You stay busy, which is beautiful, right? I mean, I still.
Mindful 3 was created by Jess King. So she created the program and then she brought me on back in 2016 to help run it. And then through there, she was becoming a certified life coach through CTI. And then I became a certified life coach through CTI. And we've kind of built this beautiful thing the last few years together.
That's beautiful. I love that you stay busy, right? I saw this thing the other day of Christopher Lee, right? So growing up, he was always like the bad guy in the
Yeah.
movies, like the vampire or something. And we go, oh, he goes again. He's the bad guy. We love the bad guy, right? We
Yeah.
always love, right? They love the Joker more than Batman. Yeah, it's crazy, but that's how humans are. But it was showing a clips of his life story. He was in the military. He started a rock band. He started movies. He was in Lord of the Rings. Like I was
Right.
like, and he died like at 92. I'm like, that's how you do it, man.
I like to keep moving. I've never really been someone to like sit still. And I mean, if you do, that's great. Everybody's different. I don't
Right.
recommend like my lifestyle to other people if that's not what they enjoy. But I've never been like someone who likes to sit around and not really
Right. Yeah.
do like I'm always like, what can I'm doing this. Okay. What else? What else? What
Right.
else can I
Right.
explore? Where
Yep.
else can I go?
Mhm.
I love to travel. I love to go different places.
Right.
I like to run because I can sign up for races, across the country, across the
Right.
world, and just
Yeah.
keep going.
And then just go
Just
there.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to think the other way, like, oh, there's nothing wrong with just sitting around and binge watching Netflix. What's the problem? Like, I was an avid, movie watcher. I could name the names and the director and but now I couldn't tell you now what the latest movie is. I might catch some, but I don't watch now. I don't, I like to read books, but I usually take the audio books,
What
right?
type of books do you like?
Well, like I want to say Think and Grow Rich, but that's a classic. But As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, right? This is a great one. I've gifted many times. The Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz. like he's taught me so many things,
Yeah.
in his books only. Like he said, that we're domesticated like dogs. And that's a hard reality, right?
Right.
Because we come into this world, we don't know anything. They teach us here, this is your food, this is your clothes, this is the temple you go to, this is the God you worship. And we don't question it. And he says, yeah, you should question it.
Should
You
question
should, yeah,
everything.
question it. Why? Why? Yeah, and look into it. So
Yeah.
books are a huge one. Dopamine Nation was a recent one that I took in. Like the Artist Way. I've done the Artist Way. If you've done the Artist Way, like, yeah, there's so many books. Oh, we push books, man.
I love to read. I'm audio book too. I'm in the car a lot, so a lot of audio.
Me too. I'll take the long way. Yeah.
Right, like you sit in the driveway because you're not finished yet.
Same here, same here. Okay, so we have the Purple Sage Festival that's coming up. This is a huge one for us, and it's happening at that land that I spoke about, the sacred land in New Paltz, New York. It's on June 28th, and I love for you to be a part of it, Candice, in any way. I don't know, but
I
yeah,
will be here. I'm actually going to be running a marathon in Colorado on June 28th.
That's right. You mentioned that. That's right.
Hopefully we can do something else some other time.
Not hopefully, we will. Trust me. So this is a big one that we're having, but we also have that Wind Horse. That's the name of our men's retreat. It's the Wind Horse Rising Men's Experience. That's the name of it, right? If you know about Wind Horse, it's all those things. Well, it's the Tibetan mindset that they talk about. We're rich in many ways. It doesn't have to be financially. We're rich, in our mind, in our spirit, our soul, our energy, all of these type of things. And then it seeps into different parts of our lives. So we have this whole thing where, there's different pillars that we teach about. The first one is God, higher power, whatever name you want to put on it. We should recognize that there's something greater outside of us. That's the first thing. Recognize that there's something greater outside of us. Whatever it is, I don't, whatever. There's no dogma. That's what I'm trying to get at. We don't do that, And then, the second one would be like, are you a self-aware person? I am. I know who I am. I know, what makes me tick and what I'm a man. I know those things. We get clear on some of those things. So that's just a little tip of the iceberg. Yeah, maybe you want to come to the men's retreat. I don't know. Maybe. Hello. Yeah. Just come on.
Crash it.
That's right. Why not? Okay. So there we have it. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you big time. Thank you so much, Candice.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It was wonderful.
I'm glad we met. Okay. So I'm going to put you backstage for a minute and close up here. Don't move.
Sure.
Okay. There you have it, guys. The Art of Rising. Another great person, another great things that she's doing. Look her up. I gave you all the info. We're going to leave the show notes down below as always. And until the next one, people,